where I hit record. Okay, we're
Cool.
starting.
Right on.
Johnny, the anxious
Yes.
beard. Tell me
Okay.
this. Where did the anxious beard come from?
Well, the past 10 years I've been anxious and I have a beard. I figured they go together pretty good, so I ran with it. You know.
And so you decided to, you were saying right before I hit record, you were saying, I had these ideas about what I was going to do on Instagram. Can you tell me what your ideas were?
I wanted to to beef up my Instagram page for YouTube so I could start a YouTube. I have all these huge plans and, overthinking things, looking too much into stuff. I ended up not being able to be in front of camera, not being able to post videos of myself and things that I was doing. And next thing you know, it turned into a motivational quote page and with a few pictures of me sprinkled in there. And hopefully I'll get the nerve, after doing this is giving me a little more
I mean, you're
confidence
doing
to,
it right now. I was gonna say,
yeah,
like, this is freaking amazing. It's always amazing to me because I'm talking to people who I find very brave
uh,
for doing these things. Like, it's not easy for the average person, let alone someone who's dealing with mental health levels of complexity. And like, look
yeah.
at you, you're totally doing it, and you look great.
Thank you. Well, it helps that I can see you and not me. I'm in that little box in the
Yeah,
bottom corner, so I can't critique myself too much. So,
yeah. I always focus on the other person. That helps me a lot
yeah,
too.
exactly.
So can you tell me a little bit about like what your vision was initially, what you wanted to say to people, how you wanted to connect with them?
I wanted to for them to see me as this anxious beard, this big kind of tough guy, and let them know that, I mean, tough guys like me have anxiety, we have agoraphobia, we have depression, we have all sorts of different mental healths, and I wanted them to know it's okay. I mean, you could still be a tough guy. You could still be, I can still whoop some butt, but I mean, I'm sensitive. I have issues, and those issues went ignored for a long time because of my appearance, because I'm a tough guy and all that, and because I ignored all those issues and just shoved them down, they're coming up viciously right now and affecting my life greatly. And so I want to show people that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to talk. It's okay to have all these feelings. I hear a lot that men take their lives because they didn't speak out. They didn't feel comfortable enough to talk to their friends or their boys, as they would say. And I'm changing that. My best friend, he's probably one of the biggest bros, out there that doesn't talk about his feelings. And every time I see him, I love you before we leave, and we hug it out, and I tell him my problems, he tells me his problems, and I want to break down those walls, and I think a lot of men out there and women um, need to do that. It's just it's a stigma that needs to end, and hopefully my big beard will help that. I don't
It's
know.
such damn good work. It is such,
Yeah.
and for those of you who can't see, the anxious beard is wearing a Bass Pro Shops hat right now, like he's fully living it.
A little bit.
Um, so you grew up in California, half Mexican, half Dutch, right? You
Yeah.
told me, like, tell me about what your family was like.
My dad was a mellow guy that nothing bothered him. He just was always that happy guy, and he was my Mexican side, and he didn't speak a lick of Spanish. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was
Um,
gonna say a lick of English makes sense.
yeah,
Okay.
no, he did. We weren't really from, that side of my family wasn't really from Mexico. I think I'm like 10th generation California.
Tex-Mex,
So
Cali-Mex.
Spanish wasn't really a big thing in our household. My mom being Dutch, she spoke fluent Spanish. Didn't make any sense to me, I know, but they I grew up in a real sports oriented household, so that was pretty much life. We wrestled, we played football, soccer, baseball, everything.
Did you have
And
brothers? Was
I had 3 older brothers. Yeah.
okay, I was gonna say that sounds like a pack of brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. It was my poor mom, she was in a house full of testosterone and but we were a quiet household, we were quiet, loving. Um, Me being the youngest, I kind of just got handed everything and just like just shut up and sit down kind of thing. And here's money, here's stuff, and you know, can't say that's why I'm the way I am, but definitely grew up in a very loving household.
I
Yeah, my
know it's always
brothers beat
confusing when
up on
people are
me.
like, "Wait, why is this?" And you're like, "Well, I had a super supportive family. They were
Yeah,
great."
yeah. Well, when I see my therapist, they're always like, "So, were your parents abusive?" I'm like, No, they were like overly loving, like no, at the dinner with them all the time in high school. I was like the only high school kid that like hung out with my parents. No, I had a great relationship with them. It's just certain things weren't talked about, and certain emotions weren't talked about, and I think
Same,
that's
by the way. Same in my
yeah,
family. Like,
uh,
could not have more supportive
oh yeah,
parents, really.
yeah,
But I remember, like, as a kid, we didn't say I love you.
yeah,
But like they did. I mean, I knew, but I think my mom was kind of like baby boomer generation a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
So you just
Well,
didn't
I think
have
if,
that
if I
kind of
said I love you to my brothers, I'd have got beat up. Yeah, I mean, it would have been not a good experience. So, now as an adult, a couple of us say it. We have a couple other brothers that are still like, I'm not saying that, so what are you gonna do?
So so are you the only one that you know of in your family that has had mental health struggles?
Well, actually, my mom, she had anxiety and agoraphobia,
There you
and I
go.
know they say it's very much so a learned behavior, and I never believed it, but her being the only person I ever saw with these issues, and here I am now struggling with anxiety and agoraphobia. Um, I'm starting to notice the things, so I want to make sure that I don't continue to learn. You know what I mean? Those habits, and but she struggled most of her life, but she never faced it. She still
Mm,
hasn't faced it. My father passed away 6 years ago, and she still hasn't coped with his death. So she's struggling still. She kind of uses all of us as a crutch, and so I'm kind of learning from her not making the proper steps. I'm kind of
right.
learning from
You see
her
where that
bad
sort of
decisions.
goes.
Yeah,
Does she know? Do you talk to her about yourself? Do
yeah,
you? Yeah.
yeah. Really before my Instagram, my wife and my mom were the only ones that,
Wow.
or really now are only ones that know the extent of things. Um, I have a personal Instagram. They don't know anything. To them, I'm this, big tough guy from high school that everyone liked and that sort of thing. And my life is perfect. And so this is kind of like my anxious beard is kind of like my alter ego, like a real part of me that I don't share with everyone else. And now that I've been real active in church, um, sharing that video, uh, and a few other videos that we kind of did during that time, my church kind of knows a little more. So there's a lot of people in that organization, that group, that know how I am. So I just figured I wanted to get good at telling my story and get comfortable with just letting that side of my life know everything. Like my brothers don't even really know the full extent of it. Um, you know, it got pretty bad for a while, but I'm improving. I'm improving, and every day is a struggle, but I'm doing pretty good.
What's it like when you like? Do you have steps of what talking about your story is like? Is it like ahead of time you're stressed out, then you do it, and how does that feel? Like, how will you feel after our conversation? Will it feel good or?
If I don't watch it, it'll feel great. But the thing is, I'm a overthinker. I'm very hard on myself, so I will look at myself like, oh, you look fat. Oh God, look at the wrinkles. Oh, this. I'll tear myself down to like the simplest form, and I don't know why I do it.
Well,
I'm not.
meanwhile, all I see are like super warm eyes and a dimple,
Yeah, I won't
which
see
are
any of that.
great.
Yeah, I'll be like, my beard's not perfect, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't know where that came from. Um, like I said, I've always been a very confident person. I'm always been able to look in the mirror and say, you're not a bad looking guy. I don't think of Brad Pitt or anything, but not a bad looking guy. And so I've been confident in that way. But this level of perfection, it's almost like I set myself up for failure constantly, and it's like it's never good enough. But like my wife, she's perfect. My kids, they're perfect. Um, so many things are perfect, but I turn it on myself. I'm not perfect, and
If you could only
I
see
mean,
yourself through their eyes.
yeah, I that'd be nice. I don't know what it's like to, like I said, I've always pushed myself as hard as I could and put those unrealistic expectations on myself. I played football. I'm short. I'm not a tall guy, but I played like I was 6'5", and I expected to go to the NFL, even when I knew it was not realistic because I'm short. I expected to go there. So I was disappointed when I did it, and it started at a young age. And
That's super
wrestling, I
interesting.
expected to go to the Olympics. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know. So everything I do, I do woodworking stuff. It's never good enough,
Yeah, yeah. And
and
yet you think you sort of have this expectation and confidence that it's going to be really good.
yeah, yeah. I honestly, I think I grew up with a learning disability.
Mm.
So I had ADHD and I also had a learning disability. So I struggled through school my whole life. A lot of the time, my mom would pull me out, homeschool me, catch me back up a little bit. But by my freshman year, I didn't know how to read. You know, it was tough. I was popular. I was a monster athlete, and then having to hide this I'm dumb kind of thing, and my mom would always say, you're not dumb, you're brilliant, you learn different. And it took me a lot of years, like into my adulthood, to realize I'm not dumb. I learn really different, and I just didn't understand that growing up. So it was like something that I wasn't good at with school, but I was amazing at sports. I was amazing at this. I was amazing at picking up girls. um, so I ran with those things and ignored school even more. And but then I became a perfectionist about the things I was good at. I have to be better than everyone else. And my dad told us a quote growing up that I don't care if you're a trash man. I don't care what you do. I don't care. Just be the best you can at it. And I think I took it a little more literal, like I literally have to be the best. So everything I've
Mm.
done, I have to be the best. And I'm not a sore loser if I'm not the best, but I will push it until I'm the best. And once I'm the best, I want to move on to the next thing. And it's an odd thing, I don't know if it has to do with like my ADHD, if it has to do with my learning disability, anxiety, like
Well, you have a
what.
lot. I mean, you have a lot in your life that you're dealing with, not just those things, but also you described that your daughter is sick, right? Or your daughter is autistic. Was that right?
Well, my oldest son,
Oh,
he
son.
has Down syndrome and
Oh, I'm
autism.
sorry. Okay.
That's okay. Yeah, I don't like usually bringing all of it up because I don't want to seem like I'm throwing a pity party because
No.
I don't like
I
that
mean, these are
attention.
just
But
facts of life. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like
but
a fact of life is losing your job and not having money for these
yeah,
are just facts.
oh yeah. Well, I definitely think I have some stressors in my life that a lot of people
Yeah.
don't. You know, meeting my wife, I've known her since I played football in Pop Warner. She was one of my cheerleaders. Um, Knew her in high school. I had a crush on her. She was a dork. I was too cool, kind of thing. And when we connected, I really got to know her, and I just immediately fell in love. And then she had told me that she has a kind of a rare heart condition, and that she had a pacemaker. I'm not gonna lie, it freaked me out because I fell in love so fast. I thought of my future, thought of everything, and then I was like, how selfish is that for me to look into my future and be like, well, do I want to have kids with her? Do I want to have this? Is she going to leave me someday because she's going to get sick? And then I kind of reeled it back in and was like, that's so selfish to think like that. Like it's it's not fair, but I she deserves love too. You know what I mean? Like I can't look at her that way. So I just embraced it and I said, you know what? I don't care. Whatever comes our way comes our way. And she's had a couple pacemaker surgeries and they're terrifying.
Yeah,
Like
that sounds so
she's
terrifying. Oh my god.
oh yeah. and she's
Oh my
totally
God.
calm about it. She's calm and collect, and
Yeah,
I'm
you
the one
said
pacing.
she's your rock. She's your rock, you said.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, there's a fear behind that. I don't ever want to lose her. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
scared because she literally keeps me going. And then 10 years ago, when my son was born, the doctor said, he might have Down syndrome. And we said, that's fine. I mean, okay. And they said it could be the bad Down syndrome. It's like there's a bunch of different trisomies, and there's quite a few that they come out and they don't end up making it. So we didn't have the opportunity to be able to really look into it more. We just said, we're putting it in God's hands, and we'll see. And he came out and he was amazing. And she looked at me, I looked at her, and I gave her the nod, like, yeah, he's good, and he's got Down syndrome. It's cool. Let's do this, and uh, well, he ended up having a heart condition. He ended up having
Mm,
some complications. So he was in there for like 3 months. So
wow.
going home without the baby was rough, but when he was having heart surgery, that's where my panic started. That's where,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I assume that these things aren't separate from what you're experiencing. So panic, was that panic attacks at that stage, or?
you know, before that, I was okay. I mean, I had anxiety, but I didn't know what it was. I mean, I had moments of anxiety, I had moments of panic, but I just always chalked it off as being something else. And the day after he got out of surgery, we left the hospital to go take a nap, and I remember pulling off on this one specific street, and just the sweats, the everything. It was just like all at once. And I just held onto the wheel like I was driving through a tornado. And my wife just put her hand on my back and just said, hey, we're right across the street from the hospital. So if you have any problems, we can just turn around. I can
She's
drive. And I'm
amazing.
like, no, I think it'll pass. I don't know what this feeling is. And then it stopped, and drove home. And then the next day, same thing, same time, same place. And I'm like, so a pattern was being made that
Hmm.
I didn't even know. I still didn't know at that time what it was. And my mom said, I think you had a panic attack. And I'm like, all right, well, whatever. Just kind of shoved it down. I have other things I got to deal with. I had to go to work. And I mean, at that time, I was also working in nursing. So I was seeing sick people every single day, seeing people die every single day. Um, my dad had just gotten off the ventilator. So it was a real high dense moment in my life. And then having to worry about my son, like, is he going to recover from the heart surgery? Is he recover from the other surgeries he's having? And we already had our first child, who had no issues, was perfect. Everything was easy peasy. And it was just a lot of emotion. And I just had to cram it all down. And I kept on doing that and just kept on moving. And he's a blessing. He's great. So far, knock on wood, he's been healthy, he's been good. Um, but he's a lot of work, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna lie. He's a lot of work. He comes with a little extra.
Hmm.
And that autism is a son of a gun, I'll tell you. It's his downs, if I think if he just had Down syndrome, I think he would be very high functioning. But
Hmm.
the autism, there's nothing like having your child say I love you, or dada or mama,
Of
and then
course.
just stop. And now he doesn't talk at all. So I mean, it's something I see that breaks my wife's heart, and it bothers me too. But it's just a tear I got to shove down. it's
Oh.
uh it's
So
unfortunate, but
when did you stop shoving everything down?
about a week ago. No, I don't.
Yesterday, this
Yeah,
morning.
seriously. um I'd say over the past 3 years, I'd say 3 years ago, my anxiety got so bad, agoraphobia came into the story. I didn't leave the house. um I could drive, but I can only drive with my wife or my mom. And talk about a demoralizing, just punch in the gut when your buddies say, hey, come hang out, and I'm
Yeah.
like, can my wife come? you know
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it was tough. And so I started little by little doing. I have books and stuff like that I went over, the CBTs, and just all sorts of different YouTubes I've watched, books I've read, articles I've read. and I was able to learn a few tips to be able to kind of push my limits a little by little by little. And so I did kind of like exposure therapy.
I mean, you're doing it
And
right now with this. I mean,
yeah. I literally jumped in the car and just drove somewhere. And
wow.
but I drove around the corner, and I know it's the first time I went to the store, which is about a mile, 2 miles away from my house. It felt like a huge victory. I felt like freed, like yes, I was so pumped. And but I couldn't go inside. But it's
Mm.
okay. I mean, it's a
Yeah, you got
Starbucks right
there.
there. I
Yeah.
drove through Starbucks. I'm like, yeah, that was a victory, you know. And and that was about a year ago, maybe a year and a half
Mm.
ago. Um, this past Thursday when I did that video that I posted, um, I drove to a whole nother city. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous, you know,
No,
when
it
I'm
doesn't.
saying it out
No, it
loud.
doesn't. Like
But
anyone who can like has the ability to look through another's eyes, it does not. It sounds amazing.
yeah, well, it was about, you know, it's a 15-20 minute drive, and I did it, you know, and I did it alone. And not only did I do that, I went in and sat down in front of a camera with some people I didn't know very well and shared my story. And you know what I shared on my IG was just a very very small clip. It was a 2 hour conversation, and it was a great experience. You know, it was very God based, which you know, not everyone believes, and that's okay. I mean, I don't. It's but I do. I have faith, and I'm telling you, the past month has been a month. Wow, it's been, there's been so many positive things in my life happening, and I almost, and I'm sure you've heard this before from other people with mental health, but you almost don't know how to handle it. You know,
Mm.
um, for a long time, I would have an emotion, and I would just every emotion I had, I just pushed into the anxiety emotion. And so if I was excited to go to Disneyland, I was panicking and all anxious. You know, if I was sad or if I was happy, everything went to anxiety. So having all these great feelings that are going on right now and all these opportunities and people reaching out to me and it's incredible feeling. So it's hard to, you know, I'm so hard on myself. And then on the other hand, I'm like, well, these people are reaching out to me for a reason, right? Oh, they're gonna regret it, you know. So it's a
Because you're
battle.
brave. I mean, it comes down to bravery.
Yeah.
It really
Oh,
does. Like
thank
people
you.
are attracted to bravery. They're attracted to someone who is willing to share something that is difficult. And it does set you apart. Even though it feels like, oh, everyone else is doing fine and I'm not, but like we don't know. We don't know what's going on with them and it is very brave and it makes people feel very close to you,
Thank you.
even if
Thank you.
they, are just watching.
Hmm.
So after you
Yeah,
did the video, did you feel good? How did you feel?
I felt alive. You know, I felt. You know, I don't ever like to say I want my old life back. I want the old me back. I always say I want my life to start again. And but after that, it felt like a little bit of my old life, and I was like, wow, you know, and you know, a lot of things that people don't understand that maybe don't understand their mental health that you're going to have setbacks. And setbacks are not just going to happen when you have a bad day. Setbacks will actually happen when you're having a great day because you're expecting, okay, well, it's going too well, something bad's going to happen. And so I did have a bit of a setback. You know, had a couple of days where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to hang out and watch TV and just kind of try to decompress. And I'm able to recover from my setbacks
Mm.
through all the education I've done. So my setbacks are a day, a couple hours, you know, and I'm able to get back on it. When before my setbacks would literally be 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, and it would push me back and I would start over again, but way farther back than I did. Now I can start back in the same spot I left off. But after that filming, I was like, oh, I felt like I could do anything. I felt like the Hulk. I just wanted to run through the city, you know, and it was a liberating feeling. And then actually for the first time, because when you have anxiety and your mind's racing, and throw ADHD on that, your mind's really racing, and you tend to, being in a group conversation, you're just thinking about what you're going to say next. You're not hearing everyone else. And I read a book that was said, when you're not giving people that attention and you're not listening to them, I mean, that conversation is just going going to hell. It's just not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's like
And
two
oh yeah.
ships going different directions.
So I really embraced it, and I watched them, and I listened to them, I heard them, and so much that I forgot what I was gonna say. So when they turned to me, I'm like, I did the whole stutter for about 5 minutes and try to regain what I was thinking about. And but I'm okay with it because I heard their stories for the first time. I really heard them, and I felt them, and it made me more comfortable. So only problem was we talked for 2 hours. They had the camera on for a half hour. I was not digging the camera. There was a few of them, and
Yeah.
I'm at like the heaviest I've ever been, so I'm not the most confident in the body right now. So
Yeah.
um, it's just but it was a surreal experience. It was people actually hearing my story, and then they kept on saying like, "Oh, keep it going," and I'm like, "Nah, it's stupid. I always do that. I don't want to hear my mess." And they kept on asking me to hear it, and I'm like, "Oh, to tell my whole story, I would need probably a week of straight shooting, because I had a lot go on, and I'm 35 years old, but I feel like I have stories that are of 65, 7-year-old people. I've experienced a lot, I've lost a lot, I've done a lot, and I mean that's what I was hoping for my Instagram and then eventually YouTube, to tell my stories and to tell my experiences. And because at the end of the day, it's all about being able to have that compatibility with other people. Seeing someone else that struggling with the same symptoms as me, literally just immediately takes away the power of my own anxiety by seeing them going through it too. And I always try to say the familiarity of it. um, I think that's one of the biggest medicines. I think that is the greatest thing.
Where
You
when
know,
somebody else describes something and you know
oh
that it's
yeah,
similar to yours and you're like, wait, this is not some secret hidden
yeah,
thing that I'm
yep.
the only one that experiences.
I don't have this rare condition. It's
Yeah.
very common,
Yeah.
and I'm just, I don't have these rare conditions, but I'm speaking about them like they are rare. And then people are like, "Oh, wait, I had that same thing," and I'm like, "You do?" And it just immediately, like, it takes that power away from the amygdala, that part of your brain that's just
Yes.
an a-hole. It's
Yes.
just,
The amygdala
yeah.
is an asshole. Such an
Oh
asshole.
gosh, I really, I always say, and actually, my first time when I realized, I think I'm improving. I think I'm on the right direction. Is I told my therapist, you know, if I could meet anxiety in a dark alley, or my amygdala in a dark alley, I would kick the shit out of him. You know what I mean? I would destroy it. And so I look at my anxiety, and it started helping me when I did this. I looked at anxiety as an actual person, literally sitting next to me, and I actually like turned my head and just was like, "You're an asshole. Like I don't, I
Screw you.
I know what you're doing. I know what you're
Yeah.
doing. I don't like you, but you know what? You can sit here and enjoy my space. Go ahead. But this is my space, and it started helping. It started giving me that power. It started giving me that, like, you know what? I'm in control. You want to sit on my couch with me, go ahead. But I'm deciding what we watch. I'm deciding what we do, and as soon as I was able to do that, things started kind of opening up. But because I'm a hot mess express with tons of different, issues, they'll come back around and they'll switch up. So I'm really trying to work out, just kind of like, all of them leave me alone. Like,
Yeah, like
just take one
if
at a
you're
time.
driving the car and in the front seat is the most annoying anxiety passenger, but you also have ADHD in the back seat and you
Oh yeah.
also have agoraphobia, which is like,
Hmm.
don't forget about me. Here I
Yep.
am.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Shut up,
That's absolutely
everyone.
the truth. I have a car full of kids that I don't like. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, they're nothing compared to my own children. My own children are precious and amazing, and I don't mind them throwing French fries up front and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
these irrational thoughts and all these, it's tough. It's hard work. I'm tired of sweating for no reason. I'm tired
Oh,
of doing this, and
oh,
wiping my hand off because I'm nervous. It's just I hate sweating. I sweat
I
enough because I'm
know.
fat. I don't want to sweat for no reason too.
I feel
So
you. I
it's
totally
just,
feel you.
but hey, it could be worse. That's what I always say. I could
I do
be
think
dead.
that there is a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice to like you said, surf the wave or confront it to sort of to gear up for the fight.
Uh,
But the more you do it, it really, it's sort of like
I
the
actually,
size of that other that
mhm.
fight just gets smaller and smaller because you're
Oh
able
yeah.
to.
Yeah, once I accepting it, I mean, I read in one book, I'm not even sure. And by the way, when I say I read a book, I read an article, my first book I ever read was 2 years ago, ever,
It's
cover to cover.
amazing.
So it was a huge accomplishment. Well, because of that, now I'm like, I want to pick up the next book and the next book and the next book. And I brought 3 books here. One in particular that I feel started this whole thing that I got for Christmas
Yeah, let's see.
last year. And I don't know if am I okay to show a book on.
Yeah, show it. I want to see, and I'll
Um,
share that. Badass ways to end anxiety and stop panic attacks. A counterintuitive approach.
it
Awesome.
it was like literally after, I would say halfway through. And you can see I've read this a few times.
Oh
It's
my god,
beat up
amazing.
and it's kind of like my anxiety Bible. And the you read the front and you see badass ways to end anxiety and you think it's going to be like this tough. It's not.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
explained so well, so easy. And see, that inspired me, and that's what I want to do with ending the stigma and all that
Amazing.
stuff. And my Instagram, I don't want to sit in front of people and act like I'm a doctor and use all the, the amygdala, the fight or flight response and all this. I don't want to put it that way because people are gonna be like, I don't know what that is, and so I'm trying to put it as simple as form, just me being real. Hey, this mental shit sucks, like
Yeah.
try this, and I've learned so many tips from this book. It just it's amazing.
How'd you
Like I
find it?
started,
Where'd you find that book?
my mom bought it for me
Mm,
because I'm not a traditional guy. I'm not gonna read the I mean, I don't
good
even like going
mom.
to therapy, and so she bought this and said it says badass on from it
Yeah,
on the front of it,
this seems
so
like you.
he'll probably like it, and I loved it, and it shares other people's experiences in it, gives little tips, and I was able to elaborate on these tips and kind of tweak them a little bit. So I have my own little tips and tricks that I use, and they work fantastic. I've told a few people, and they're like, wow, as silly as it sounds, it really works,
I want to
and
hear. Okay, yeah, you got to make videos about those because I want to
yeah,
hear what. What's your late?
I
Can you just tell me like what is one that is really working for you?
yeah, um, I would say one of the first ones that I kind of read and then tweaked it myself. He was saying that you know when you get into that panic moment, that anxiety moment, and everything's chaos, your adrenaline level obviously goes through the roof. Well, that nasty feeling during anxiety attacks because you get tons of adrenaline and you're not doing anything with it. So your heart's pounding, you're sweating, and all this stuff, and you're not doing anything with it. So you'll hear, in articles and stuff like that, well, go out, go running. I mean, like, not everyone can go running. Some people are going to go running and feel their heart beat harder and they're going to pass out because they're freaked out. And then they say, sing out loud. That's what I read in the book. Not everyone feels comfortable singing out loud and looking like a crazy person. I mean, that's one of our reasons we're anxious because we're worried about what everyone else thinks. We're going to start singing randomly. It's not going to work. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try that at all. And so I was in the car one day and I was driving to go get my wife. I was white knuckling it, anxious, felt horrible, and I could just feel that adrenaline level raise. And I can hear my amygdala saying, I was like laughing and like, I'm gonna mess this whole trip up for you, dude. And so I antagonized it. I turned it on my amygdala. And I said, bring it on. Go ahead. Give me whatever you want. And so the feelings that I was having was obviously a heart attack. I exaggerated it so much. I literally pictured my heart shooting out of my chest like in a cartoon and then popping like a balloon and all over the place. And it just made it so over the top and ridiculous. And all of a sudden it just stopped. And I'm like, did that work? Did that work? And I was like, no way. And so yeah, I do it all the time. When I start having these
Okay.
feelings, I taunt it. I make fun of it. I make it way bigger than it is. And I don't make it realistic, like, okay, well, I might have to have a blood transfusion. And then, I mean, I make it like literally blood squirting out everywhere and it's colorful and,
Yeah. Does
you
it
know,
also make you laugh a little bit? Because it sounds
it
kind of
does,
like
it,
cartoonish
it does
funny. Yeah.
a little bit of humor, but mainly it's making it, because already our thought is so absurd. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not rational. So let's make it more
I
unrational,
agree.
or
I
you
agree.
mean,
I
like,
love it when
let's just
my
keep it
husband
going.
and daughter do that to me all the time. Like, oh, you
Yeah,
really
and it
think the
just
garbage is going to eat the house? Like, you think you're going to be like buried alive under?
yeah.
And then
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, that's really funny.
Yeah. Well, and
That's
then you
so
can
dumb.
imagine you're on a little boat paddling through the trash, like it
Yeah.
just, I take it to the next
Yes.
level, to the
Yes.
point where it's
Yes.
like, it's so ridiculous. Like,
Yes.
even someone super anxious was going to be like, come on, dude. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
outlandish. And it's helped. And I also do, I scream, I'll be driving the car.
Into a
I feel that,
pillow or like,
no, I feel that energy level, and I'll roll my window down and, like, as loud as I can, just yell out the window, then roll it up and keep on driving, because people generally are like, "Oh my god." But the over exaggerating, the making fun of it, I mean, that's something that really, it works for me. It may not work for everyone. It may push someone into anxiety, but you know, we got
but
to
that's
try
the thing. You
anything
got
we
to
can.
experiment. You got to try
Yeah,
stuff. And then you realize, oh, that doesn't work, but this might.
yeah. And it
It's
was fun.
great.
It was funny. It was funny because I was like, I'm able to make fun of my amygdala. That person that's staring at me. I'm like, yeah, okay, dude. I'm able just to just totally take the power away from it. And that, I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm
that's,
imagining you in the future having like drawings of your amygdala on your Instagram
oh,
or something like this
I,
cartoon character that's
oh,
like.
I already do. I already,
I love
do you
it.
know I'm not sure if you follow, it was the Mighty Ducks, the cartoon. What is that? I don't know. He was like Donald Duck or something like that, and
Okay,
he's
okay.
dressed up in a I want to say he's the Dark Knight or something like that, but he's dressed up in like a big hat, a mask, and he's like this dark character or whatever. For some reason, I picture him as a duck in a
Like
like
Scrooge McDuck
villain
kind of
costume.
situation.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't understand why.
That's
Um,
hilarious.
and I just, oh man, I would love to meet that person in a ring or something.
I would love to
Yeah.
see it.
Oh yeah. So
So what do you think what's next on the horizon for you? Do you have um sort of a vision like in the next few months I'd like to do blah, or are you not thinking that way at this point?
you, it's hard because they always say in every book, every website that, I mean, help with anxiety, you want to be structured, you want to have goals, you want, routine, all that sort of thing. And I don't particularly like that. So goals, I look at them in one of two ways. They're either setting myself up for failure,
Mm.
or I don't know. I'm just kind of go with the flow guy. So I
Yeah, yeah,
have I
I'm into
have
it.
ideas. Yeah, I have ideas I want to do, but I want it to be the best. And see, that's my problem. That's my perfectionism and being hard on myself and everything. That is the things I'm running
I've
into.
had to work on that too so much. Like
Well,
I never thought I would do a podcast because I was like
yeah.
it won't be like the podcasts I listen to that are so
Oh.
good and so polished and like, you
Well, I
know.
listen to Joe Rogan. You mean, like, Joe Rogan? He's such like a. I mean, he's a little on the odd side. You know what I mean? Some of the
Yeah,
things that come out
yeah.
of his mouth, I'm like, oh, but I respect the honesty and the realness, and I mean,
Yeah.
like, that's his truth. Not
You
anybody
and a lot
else's.
of people. I mean, I think
Yeah,
he really brings in a lot of people with his honesty.
yeah. I there's certain things I want to show. I mean, the YouTube thing, I mean, it's hard because I watch a lot of YouTubes, and a lot of them are, they all look the same. They all have that, like, certain hairdo, and they're all thin and all. And I'm just like, you don't see any fat guys with beards on there. And I'm like, but there's so many things I want to do that I feel like, I'll tell you a little part of it. I'm not afraid of someone else taking it because I don't really care. But um, I want to do a portion of it where I interview, you know, cops, firefighters,
Love
military,
that. Love that.
businessmen.
Please
My
do that.
my oldest brother works for NASCAR. Um, I have an opportunity to ask the drivers, because I want to ask every single one of them, what is your process on the hype before, a cop sitting there eating a donut, no offense, but sitting there eating a donut, just chilling, and then all of a sudden there's a shooting, and boom, their adrenaline levels up sky high, and then all of a sudden they have to be able to bring it down to move on to the next thing. Firefighters, same thing. They're chilling and sitting at the firehouse, and my best friend's a firefighter, and I've already asked him these questions, and hearing his thought process of going from just chilling to all of a sudden, oh my God, there's a fire, we got to get dressed, da, 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 da,
That is
da. And then,
fascinating.
yeah,
Please
and
do
then
that. I
getting
love
to that
that.
fire, and then like all of a sudden it's not a fire, it's fine, it's no big deal. What do you do with all that? I mean, how do
Yeah,
you?
you basically are
Yeah,
trying to research, how do other people deal with this adrenaline
yeah,
spike? Like,
and,
how do
and
they not have it take over them?
yeah, and I want to show other people. So like, show how this cop or how this firefighter, how this NASCAR driver handles the progression of their nerves, their adrenaline, their anxiety, and the before and after. What do they do? They may not even know that they do something, but they could be helping someone like me or people that suffer from anxiety, and see like, wow, maybe I'll try that, and hearing what my best friend told me, what he did before calls and all that stuff, I was able to actually implement some of that information he gave me in my anxiety attacks or panic attacks, and they worked, and I was like, wow. So I felt like it's something like I can really do something with this. I can really run with this. And but there's so many factors in this. I want the best camera. I want all the gadgets. I want, and then I'm afraid of just what I do is I kind of overdo it, and then
Yeah.
I have all this stuff, and then I'm too afraid to do it, and then I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna sell all of it and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
move on. Overthinking is, when you said that in the email, I just saw that overthinking it. Goodness, the one of the questions was, uh, does knowing other overthinkers help you feel better? And I thought it was so funny. I laughed in my head because I'm like, does knowing other overthinkers help me feel better? You know what? Give me about 30 minutes. I'm gonna really think about this one, and I'll get back to you. I'm like,
Oh my
yeah,
god.
it's so funny because I
I
overthink
so
everything. It's insane. And it said, are you an overthinker? What is your relationship with your overthinking? 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, you mean like it'll take me 5 minutes to start? You're like, oh, I'm like, oh, overthinking is such a huge part of my life, and it's, you mean some things are great, but some things are really horrible. You mean like it's when you beat something up so much, you just depleted everything. You know what I mean? You just made everything just the. And I always tell people, having anxiety, having agoraphobia, having panic disorder, ADHD, all these things I have, you can look at it negatively, and a lot of people do. They turn it on themselves and just beat themselves up. But I also look at it as a superpower. I have horrible days most days. Most days I'm anxious, and I don't want to leave the house. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk to anybody. But then sometimes I wake up and I'm amazing and I feel great. Or that feeling that after your panic attack, that like euphoric feeling, I always tell people, live in that moment, like enjoy that moment, remember that moment. So the next time you have a panic attack or anxiety, it's like that day, the day after you get the flu, and you're horrible, you feel like crap, but the first day you feel amazing. That feeling, you're like, oh, you feel so alive. The same thing with anxiety attacks, same thing with any type of mental health attacks. That next day, that next moment, the moment after, remember that feeling, enjoy that feeling, because you can have that every day. I mean, don't let anxiety win. Don't let panic win. You can feel that feeling. Once that storm passes, you mean it's a bright, shiny day outside. Enjoy it, love it, and not only that, but anxiety taught me a lot of things, to be able to read people, to be able to read my surroundings. There's a lot of good things that come from my anxiety, because my anxiety is really just trying to save my life. I mean, it is on a very dramatic level. So I appreciate it now, and I'm able to look at the things that lets me look at. I see the world differently. I can really appreciate things now, because when I know what a bad day looks like, when a good day comes, man, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm more aware, and I'm in tune with my body. So if something really is going on in my body, I'm gonna know it, and I will panic about it for like 2 months before I go see a doctor. But I mean, I look at the beauty in all these horrific issues and illnesses and whatever. Um, you have to look at things like that. You can't just be like, my life's over, I have anxiety. Instead, I'm gonna have a bad moment because I have anxiety, but it'll be over with, and I'll continue to live my life. And the more you take the power away from anxiety and all these mental illness issues, take the power away from them, they'll dwindle. They'll go away. You'll always know it. It's a learned behavior. It's like math. You learn it, you're gonna know it. You may not remember all of it, but it's always gonna be there. And that's okay. It may not always affect you. But I just I can't say that I'd go back in life and say, if I could change anything, I would change my anxiety, and I don't think I would. I mean, it has helped me become the person I am today. When I'm in the mix of anxiety, I don't know who it is. It's not me. It's my amygdala, just kind of taking over my body for a little bit. I'll be back shortly. It's just a commercial. It's a commercial in my movie, and I mean, it just is what it is. But I don't think I'd change anything. You know, it's really, I see things so differently now, and I try to remember back when I was younger, and yeah, I almost can't. I mean, I can really appreciate things. When you have a good day, it's a good day. When you have a bad day, it's okay. It's a bad day. You'll have a good day soon. And I just keep on doing that, and it's working out. I don't know. I'm having a good day
Johnny,
today,
I
so
think I think you've got the best attitude. Thank you
I
so
try.
much for
Not always.
sharing it. Thank you for sharing it with
No problem.
everyone. I am really glad to get to know you. And now when I see you post, it's going to mean so much more to me on Instagram.
I appreciate that.
And I'll share all that information and your YouTube channel or your future YouTube channel.
Well, I have the name. I just don't have any content yet. So it's
Okay.
the
Okay.
anxious beard. So I got that wrapped up for everything.
You're going
So
to see more from Anxious Beard in the future, everyone,
I
for
I hope
sure.
so. I hope so. I really
Thank you
appreciate you
so
having me on and everything. It was fun. It was nice to be able to just word vomit all this all the stuff I
good.
did today, and it's nice.
Good.
So
Thank you.
no problem.